Guys, it's Rebecca Mara here, and I want to talk to you today about a really misunderstood emotion, anger. I noticed that I have a lot of clients, partly because of Christian upbringing, that shame anger and that don't allow themselves to be angry because it is a bad emotion. So there are so many people that experience anger and they try to fix it or push it away or get rid of it as soon as they can because it's inappropriate and there's something wrong about them feeling angry. For other people that don't shame the emotion of anger so much, it's sort of like a bad experience that they don't really know what to do with, and it gets stuck and it doesn't really create any change in their lives. So it's sort of like a disempowering experience to have anger. So in the case of people that believe that they should only be positive and that they shouldn't have negative feelings and that anger is unloving and inappropriate, I'd like to let you know, as a body worker and energy healer and intuitive, that anger still stays buried in your body. It just gets compartmentalized. So it'll either get internalized or it'll get buried somewhere in the body as resentment. So even though you might not actively feel anger or you might be able to push it away right away, it might be coming out sideways somehow through some kind of tension, etc. So what I'd like to say with that is that even though you don't feel like you're angry or that you have a problem with anger, you probably still do, it just got buried in the unconscious, which is the body. So what I'd like to speak to you about the right and wrongness of any emotion, of sadness, of anger, of it could be anything. We are animals. We have animal limbic systems, and our emotions are information, and that's it. Our emotions don't make us right or wrong. Our emotions are our responses to the world, and we're responding in the best way that we can. We're doing the very best that we can in the way that we respond, and those instinctive limbic system responses are information. It's not a personal thing. It's not a right or wrong thing, and it's not necessarily because of someone else either. So what I see with anger, when it's used incorrectly, and in our culture it's such a repressed emotion that that most people don't know how to use it as where it's not a bad thing. Most people don't know how to experience the essence of it. And I'll tell you that when anger goes wrong, the reason why it goes wrong is because we blame someone, or we shame someone or ourselves. We get angry or resentful where we shut out love to an experience or a person or ourselves, and it just stays stuck there. The emotion itself doesn't evolve because there's a story created. When the story is created, we bind energy, we stop the movement of it, we stop the learning process, and then we're stuck. So the way to work with anger is to see it as a fire energy. Anger is about fire, it's about transformation. And the main reason why people get angry is that a need is not getting met or a boundary is being crossed. And that's very important information. People that don't get angry tend to have less energy or fire in their system. They tend to get walked on a little bit more. They tend to be a little bit too passive. They might not be assertive enough, or they might not be willing to claim their light or their power enough. And by power, I mean our wholeness. So when you notice that you have an emotion of anger, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that the experience is bad. It means that there's a boundary to be set or a need that needs to be fulfilled. So if someone says something kind of snippy and it's sort of condescending or judgmental, and I get angry in response, that's an indication that I need to set a boundary with that person and say, it's not okay for you to speak to me that way, but you could do this instead. And so there's a way that we are invited to show up for ourselves and for the other person by helping them relate to us better. Maybe they're unconscious, so we don't want to do it in a way that feels shaming. It's like, hey, let's learn this together. And if that person continues to speak to you that way, then you get to draw a boundary and say, I'm not going to interact with you anymore. And that's okay. It's not about right or wrong, any of that. It's just, I don't have room for that in my life, but I do choose to bring these other things in. That's an example of healthy use of anger. Another thing is anger can show us where we're not showing up for ourselves and our lives. So if I get angry about not doing my self-care practice the way that I want to, or being assertive about my work, I can change that anger instead of just being hard on myself, because that doesn't actually create change. Negativity does not create change. But if I use that anger to be like, I want to build something beautiful, I transform that anger into passion, because it's just fire energy. It's there for transformation. Then I have a creative life force to work with. And anger has a really strong charge. So if someone's in a state of fear, or kind of really kind of sunken or depressed or mopey, those people need the fire of anger, because it has a charge and a warmth and a breath and the ability to create change and transformation. Let's see if I have anything else to say about anger. As with anything, I really encourage you to not identify with the emotion, because you are not the emotion. So it's really important to have spaciousness in your awareness, where you're not identifying with, oh, I'm angry, so I'm bad, or I'm angry at that person, so they're bad, and I'm going to blame them. That's not what it's about. You're creating a dualistic relationship there, where you create separation as soon as you start judging, and that's where you start suffering, because we want to be in wholeness. We want to be in relationship with things instead of shutting everything out. Whether or not you like it, or whether or not you want it to be there, whether or not you build a wall against something, it's still there. It's just that you build a wall against it. The relationship's still there no matter what you do. So it's best to allow it and to take the information from it and keep yourself open and alive and interacting with life. That'll help you feel empowered for sure. And you get to feel like yourself, because you're not building a wall between you and someone else, between you and life, between you and yourself. And so it's important to notice these emotions and experiences and sensations as information, and something that's working for you instead of against you. And when that happens, you're not identified with your emotion, and you're not hooked into your story, and there's so much more space for you to be so much more. There are so many other parts that you can experience at the same time as that anger, such as, I am in essence, I am whole already, and I'm having this human experience. What can I use that for? And it's really, really important. So I hope that this was helpful, and I wish you all luck in working with your anger, and also in mobilizing it and giving it life. So you can move it through your body, dance it out. Make sure that the body has an ability to express it or release it, because our conditioning keeps us, it buries a lot of emotion. If you think about a toddler, they get angry, they get sad, they're wild, and that's still what lives in our bodies before we started to become conditioned. So we need healthy outlets through our body so that we can cycle that anger through our body. That would be like kickboxing or running or dancing to move it out. But it's important to not merge with it where you're really bound into that experience. It's important to be big and spacious so it can move through you. You're dancing it through you. Okay. I hope that was really helpful. I feel like anger is a really important emotion to experience, and most people don't know how to work with it at all. And it actually is a good experience when we learn how to work with it. It might be uncomfortable, but it's all information. So it's all about how you relate to it and the way that you see it. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.